Welcome into another Dynasty recap with my boys Ryan, Cash Sharma, and Lucas Hoig. We have a great episode in store for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some rookie and sophomore wide receivers there, and then running backs for some fucking reason. These guys want to talk about running backs so fucking bad. We're going running backs the rest of the show. So if you are a running back truther, stick around. We have a great show in store for you guys today. If you're a wide receiver guy, it is going to be a juicy one. But first, guys, how are your fantasy teams doing this weekend?
This was a good weekend for my crew. I had some high scores up there, kind of distancing myself in the league we're all in. So going to be 5-0 there. And then I won what was a close one in another dynasty, and I lost in the leagues that I needed to lose in. So it's going well.
Yeah, for me, I got one win secured. That'd be the league that we're all in. Barely pulled that one off. I'm up by one currently, and Brian Thomas still left. I was thinking about benching him. Maybe there's a chance he could fumble and get hurt, but I mean the odds of that are so low that I really don't care. And then my other two leagues, down by 20. My opponent has Mahomes and ETN, and I have Brian Thomas. So that one's going to be really, really interesting. And then in another league, I'm up by 30, and my opponent has Mahomes and Kelsey. So, yeah, I could be looking at a 1-2, could be 2-1, hoping for 2-1, and also could be 3-0. But I don't think that's going to be the case. But we'll see what happens Monday night.
All right. Well, I'm about to be 0-5 in two leagues. One I was fully expecting to be 0-5 in. The other one, I kind of thought we were going to be playing around 500 ball, but team is aging and I'm ready to blow it up. So excited to blow this league up. Like I've been wanting to blow it up for a while now and finally reached that point where it's like, okay, we're going to torch this thing to the ground. Going to be 2-3 in a league I expected to be last place in, and going to be 3-2 in a league that I think I have a really good chance at a championship because I've been making some trades. I'm going to be 2-0 after a CNC and Javonte Williams trade to bolster my running back room to pair with Judkins, and then I'll be getting Lamar back soon, Drake and Caleb off the bye. So I was happy to avoid happy to avoid a lot of bye weeks this week and a loss this week off of a lot of byes and injuries for my team because Javonte and CMC carried. But overall, I guess I'm about to be like really bad in a lot of my leagues. I think I'm going to be really good in like two of my leagues. But let's go ahead and get into it, guys. A big, juicy quarter of the season conversation. We're going to be picking 5 wide receivers from these 11 right here, featuring first and second year wide receivers. We'll go from left to right here. Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze, Keon Coleman, Malik Neighbors, Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Tet McMillan, and Matthew Golden. I think the only 2 first-round picks that we left off the list from the last 2 years are Travis Hunter, and which we probably could have included him, but I feel like just the defense and half thing is kind of interesting, and Xavier Legette, because he is a bum. Who wants to go first? I'm going to be picking up my pen real quick. All right, how do you guys want to do this? How do we want to do it? You want to just list off your 5 and explain why? Or we want to go like we'll each list a player? I don't know.
Let's go 5 at a time.
5 at a time. All right, let's hear your 5.
All right, so the top 3, the 3 easiest, like in an instant I knew they were going to be included there, were Malik Neighbors, Emeka Egbuka, and our boy Rome Odunze. And I think Neighbors already has shown what he can do on a poor offense. He can control the targets. He's explosive. The only downside is, of course, he fucked himself up. So I'm definitely not, and this is probably obvious to say, but like, I think it's a big step back in his value from pre-injury. It expands past just missing this year's games. Like I wonder if he's going to be the same player, but he's still definitely in those top 3. Egbuka, obviously, having an amazing start to his career. And I will always go back to kind of the combination of one being good at what you do, being a talented wide receiver, but then the opportunity to actually score fantasy points. So think about like the offense as a whole and then target competition. And Egbuka has the competition there, but they're both obviously old and injured, and he's benefited from that so far this year. He's very good at what he does. Like, there's some shit going around about him not separating super well early on, but he's also got like the most receptions of 20 plus yards in the NFL. So something's got to be working there. And I love him right now. So I think he's probably the number 2 from that group. And then Rome Odunze, you got the opportunity in an offense that's good and getting better. You got the connection with Caleb. He's the clear number 1 in that offense. And of course, again, I think he's really good at what he does. So those 3 were really easy for me. And then I had a group of 4 that I struggled to pick 2 from to get my top 5 rounded out. It's Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, Tat McMillan, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think each of those guys kind of checks some of the boxes, but not all of them. Like, I think Marv, super talented, although he definitely hasn't like shown all of that talent in the NFL so far. Like, if you look at his overall career highlight tape, it's probably still 95% college, but he's still super talented. And I think, if he were to maybe find a new quarterback somewhere in the next 2-3 years, find a different offense, like, he has what it takes to be a number 1. I think with Ladd, if you had asked us preseason, like, I think he's for sure in that top 5 and up there with guys like Neighbors and Egbuka, knowing what we know now. But, this year's kind of been scary in the fact that he hasn't gotten a bunch of targets. He hasn't gotten a bunch of touchdowns. He hasn't scored a lot of points. And Quentin Johnston all of a sudden is, the big explosive play guy, and he's putting up all the points for him. So it's been interesting. Again, though, I think he's super talented. Like, that punt return that didn't count this past week was just like, yeah, that's the best player on the field for sure. Okay. Then Tat McMillan, think he is super talented. Like, he might be the most talented of the bunch outside of like Neighbors probably. Like, I think he's super good at what he does. He has the deep ball potential. Like, he goes up to get it and really uses his size and his athleticism, but he's also like a high target guy. Like, he's gone 8 targets, 10 targets. The downside there is just that they're not quality targets. Like, it's a bad offense. I think his ceiling right now is pretty limited, even though he is clearly the number 1, and they've drafted some wide receivers early the past couple of years, and he's certainly separated himself, but they're just not great targets from a fantasy perspective. So he was my 6th, spoiler alert. And then I ended up putting in, Marv cracks the top 5 and Ladd cracks the top 5 for me. Okay. Brian Thomas Jr. would be 7 then, and that's the one where like I could very well be just way off on that. But this year, the Jacksonville offense hasn't been amazing. The one piece is that like Travis Hunter's not coming in and taking all these targets in the clear number 1. It's just neither one of them are really producing. So I'm just a scary situation right now because if they made Hunter a full-time wide receiver and things started to click in that offense, I think there's possibility either way for Brian Thomas Jr. to continue what he showed us last year, or to kind of take that wide receiver 2 role potentially.
Me or you, Ryan? I mean, I love everything you said. I want to get everything out there first before we kind of dive into
it. I think you got some surprises for us. Let's hear Ryan's.
Okay, so for me, I mean, you broke that down beautifully, by the way.
Yeah, you did.
Top 3.
Beautiful.
My top 3 is the same as your top 3. I think that was
I'll just get it out there. Mine is the same as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, Malik Neighbors, I mean, I think his talent is up there with like the upper echelon of receivers in the league. I think he was approaching that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level for me going into this year. And I think he would have gotten there if not for the injury. I kind of oppose you on the ACL stance. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially as young as he is, and just the way that sports medicine has evolved. I don't think ACLs are as big of a deal as opposed to like an Achilles or something of that nature. I think number 2 is definitely going to be Emeka Egbuka for me as well, just because how well he is playing with Baker Mayfield and how explosive and high scoring this Tampa Bay offense looks. I mean, having him, especially when you consider the other weapons like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin was on the way out. Mike Evans is also getting up there in age and probably on the way out himself. So when you consider Emeka Egbuka is going to be lined up with Baker Mayfield for the next 5-10 years as his number 1 option, I really, really like that. And yeah, number 3 is going to be Rome Odunze. And this is one where it's like he's definitely jumped above those other guys just off like the start of this year, because I believe in my rankings in my offseason dynasty rankings, I had both Marv and Brian Thomas in my top 10. I didn't have Rome in there, although he would have been pretty close. But yeah, just his production to start the year, the touchdowns, him establishing himself as the number 1 in the Bears offense, and then obviously having Caleb Williams definitely is a big deal as well, and Ben Johnson, as opposed to someone, other receivers on this list that don't have the quarterbacks, like Tet doesn't have one. I guess you could even say Neighbors doesn't really have that either, but Rome, to me, like he's the perfect blend of having that offense that I think is going to be really good for him, having the talent, and then just having the targets and the opportunity. So yeah, that top 3 is pretty clear to me. I actually didn't really struggle that much with my 4 and 5 just because of how high I was on these 2 guys already. And I'm going to be honest.
Let me pause you real quick. I know. See, look, I feel a lot better after hearing Lucas's list that I don't have the surprises. I know I know one guy on this list is going to be a major shocker. I'm feeling it in my bones right now. Ryan, go ahead.
On my list or on yours?
Yeah, I think you're going to have a shocker for sure.
Oh, I don't think so. My number 4 is going to be Marvin Harrison. And that's already based on kind of what I said in the offseason already. And I know that, coming into this year, I thought he was going to get off to a better start. Obviously, he had a lot of drop issues that led to turnovers, which I think exemplified and, really put a bad, taste in a lot of people's mouths because of his drops leading directly to the interceptions. I think a lot of receivers drop balls. Rome Odunze's dropped a lot of passes, but it hasn't led to anything disastrous. But I do think people are kind of overlooking the last 2 games that Marvin Harrison's played. And I know it's a really small sample, but after that mistake he made on Thursday Night Football, he really, really showed his superstar potential on some of those one-on-one 50-50 balls that Kyler gave him late on that Thursday Night Football game. And then even this week, I believe he had 100 receiving yards on 5 catches. So he's really showcasing his down the field potential and playmaking ability. I think he's a lot more talented. I know Lucas said he thought Ted McMillan might have been the second most talented on this list. I think Marvin Harrison is a lot more talented. I even think other guys like Rome Odunze, who I'm about to have next on this list, I also think is more talented than him, and a couple other receivers as well. I would even say I'd have Xavier Worthy above Ted McMillan for me as well, because I just don't believe in Ted's quarterback. I don't believe in the offense he's in. I don't really understand even the hype he's gotten for how he's played this year. If you look at the numbers, they haven't been that remarkable. The targets have been there, but I kind of think he's similar to Drake London, which you guys know how I feel about Drake London. So I'm really not a big Ted McMillan guy. But yeah, my number 5 is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. I think people have gotten a little bit low on him just based off a couple of bad weeks to start the year. I think we're forgetting he was a 1,200-yard receiver last year. He had 7 touchdowns. He was a top 15, maybe top 20 pick in the draft, if I'm not mistaken. LSU, kind of the wide receiver university, really talented receiver. He's going to be the X receiver for this team for a while. I think he's gotten off to a rough start with the new coaching staff, which has definitely hurt him a bit. But kind of like Lucas was alluding to, like the fact that Travis Hunter's not really established himself as a receiver, I like that a lot. I think he's still really like the clear number 1 in this Jacksonville offense, which I think is going to get going a little bit better as Liam Cohen kind of, puts his imprint on this team and Trevor Lawrence gets a little bit more comfortable in the system. Because I look at the other targets, it's like Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, like Dynami Brown, like these guys aren't very good. And I think Brian Thomas, it's not going to be long before he establishes himself as like the clear number 1 from this offense again. And, he's only like 22 years old. He's a really, really young player. And yeah, I think to me, he's a more talented receiver than Tet. He's got a better quarterback than Tet. He's got a better offense than Tet in terms of coaches and play calling. And I think he's going to have a similar opportunity as the year kind of shakes out and their careers kind of unfold. So yeah, that was, I guess, my decision making. It was really only 6. Ladd McConkey didn't really make it in there because I'm afraid of Keenan Allen in the short term. I'm afraid of Greg Roman in the short and long term. I'm afraid of Quentin Johnston now. It's like, I just think Ladd McConkey, he showed a lot last year, but he was really the only target. And I think as we're seeing things kind of unfold here, the Chargers offense is going to be a little bit more spread out and balanced than we initially thought coming into the year. So Ladd's kind of trickling down my rankings, especially when you consider he's mostly just a slot receiver who's, more based on targets and receptions than actual playmaking and downfield ability.
I for sure thought you were going to have Ricky Pearsall in your top 5. Like, that's what I was waiting. I was waiting on you to put Ricky.
That would have been crazy. No.
Because he's having a really good season. If you look at his per game numbers are really high. He's got out of these 11, he's got the second most yards per game. So I was like, oh my God, I know Ryan's about to drop Ricky Pearsall right now. I'm feeling it in my bones. So very similar list. I do have a player in my top 5 that neither of you guys have, and that is Ted McMillan at my 5. I went with Ted in my top 5. I have Egbuka actually listed at my number 1, which might be a little crazy to put him ahead of Neighbors because of the talent, but I don't know. I understand the modern medicine and the knee injury, but all on top of that, he was like getting surgery on his shoulder, turf toe, everything piled into it. It's like, wow, he was really taking a beating. And am I really trusting the future of this New York Giants offense? I understand that it's like, talent and everything's going into like the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons, but I just think about like Puka Nacua now, where it was never really about the talent for this guy, but his production was just so good. Like, I'm trying to take the talent out of it a little bit more when it comes to these receivers and just look. I
think that's such a good comp for him too, Puka. Like, he reminds me a lot of Puka.
He is on pace right now to break Puka's record. Like, he is. I mean, obviously, it's the 167 really put a damper in that, but he's still having a phenomenal season outside of that for a rookie. 5 touchdowns, high volume offense. Like, I think really things are going to go good for him. He's going to be paired with Baker for a while. The age of Godwin and the injuries of Godwin don't scare me. Mike Evans is getting old. Like, I think this is his team now. And it was kind of shocking because I don't think any of us really seen it happening this way. We've talked about this before about how like he just gradually grows. Just like all offseason long, from like when he was drafted in terms of dynasty value to like it was like a nonstop growth. There was never like a sink back down. It was like, okay, he's going nuts in practice. Okay, he's looking really good in preseason, and now it's like explosion. Like, he's definitely a top 5 dynasty receiver right now, just based off of the 4 games that we've seen. Top 6, like, he is going crazy. Neighbors, number 2, talent. Rome, first in targets per game, 3rd in yards per game amongst this list. Tied in first with touchdowns with less games. Lucas, you nailed it on the head. The connection with Caleb Williams, his draft partner, it's clear their connection is much better than anyone else's in that offense with Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson, I'm excited about that stack. Just the 2 of them in general for the future. Rome's talent, it's showing finally. This is the guy who we thought he was going to be. I don't think he's as touchdown dependent. I think as the season goes on, his yards and catches are going to go up more because the touchdowns won't match. I'm not really worried about people saying like, oh, he's touchdown dependent. My number 4, I went with Ladd McConkey. I think the Keenan Allen fall off is going to come. I think the Quentin Johnston fall off is going to come. In terms of the future with this guy, I think he's going to eat. I still think he's going to feast. The biggest thing that stands out to me is their catch percentage is down like 13 points. Kind of not on the same page right now. I think as the season goes on, they'll get closer to that like 72% that they were at last season, especially in the second half of last season. I think they're going to figure it out. Yes, for this year, regardless, his numbers I don't think are going to be what they were last year. But in terms of the future, down the line, I'm still buying Ladd McConkey stock. And then I went with Ted McMillan. Just because I don't believe in their quarterback, but I think like the targets are going to consistently be there. Like, they cannot. Lucas, you nailed it on the head with this. They've invested a lot into the wide receiver position and draft capital, and it has not really worked out. Like, they cannot continue to do that as the years go on. Like, significant draft capital. Like, I think him going forward, he's going to be the guy of this offense for the foreseeable future. Whether it's Bryce Young or whoever they bring in next year, or draft a quarterback or a free agent vet QB, regardless, like, he is going to be the guy. I think Coker is going to be the 2 there. Leggett is falling off the wagon. I think it's going to consistently be Tet. I think Canales is going to have a chance to, continue into this offense. without Bryce Young past this. Maybe draft a quarterback of his own. Maybe bring in a veteran. Who knows? But I wasn't like, I don't think he was Rome. I don't think he was Marv in terms of talent, but I do think his talent was there. I had only Burden ahead of him this year. I thought should have probably been like top 15 range, but I still think he was a first round talent. And I think he's going to be the guy. BTJ and Marv, definitely the first two off of my list just because of Marv's talent. But the thing that scared the shit out of me the most was BTJ's 37% catch percentage. Like, they are not on the same page at all whatsoever. Like, he's got what is it? I think he had like 32 targets. I don't know what the math is on that. Only 12 receptions. That scares me. I think that shows that they're really off the page. And the inflation of Mac Jones versus Trevor Lawrence last year was enough to at least have it in your mind going into this season. Like, he had a lot better games with Mac Jones compared to Trevor Lawrence last year. And they start the year off with a 37% catch percentage like that scares the shit out of me. Who knows? It's 7:50. We haven't watched a look at the game. He could be going crazy right now. We sound like stupid asses. But nobody talked about Ricky Pearsall, by the way, sleeper guy. He's a little bit of a sleeper. Okay, yeah. He's kind of having a really good season. He still is a first round pick. Like, he was only 8 picks later than Brian Thomas Jr. He's kind of putting up numbers. My thing with not putting him on there was just San Francisco's offense has always been so spread out and always kind of just on CMC. Yeah.
A lot of his production is due to a lot of injuries as well, like George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk. So it's a bit harder for me. I wish we could go like one more so I could have talked about Xavier Worthy, because I think he would have been my number 6, to be honest. Like, I think so highly of him and his talents. And the fact that he's got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, when Travis Kelce's out of the way, obviously Rashee Rice is going to come back, but still, like, he brings just a different element to the Chiefs offense. To me, he's going to be the new Tyreek Hill. He takes the top off the defense, runs that 4-2. He's barely played. It's so unfortunate what happened to him in week 1. He came back last week, and I think he had a really, really good game. I wouldn't be surprised if he's dominating as we speak right now. I think he's going to be a really, really good receiver for this Chiefs team. And I think a lot of people are really low on him, especially, like I said, considering who he has at quarterback for the next 5+ years.
Yeah. I think that's super fair. I just need to see it. I think the talent is there. Yeah. I think we've had some flashes in the pan, but I don't think it's really necessarily hit that level. Keon Coleman didn't do much for me. Golden yet still hasn't really kind of broke out and proved much for me to kind of have either of those guys in this mix whatsoever, honestly. But Ricky Pearsall, sleeper. That's all I got to say. Should we move on here? Talk about some dying running backs, boys. Some dying running backs right in front of our eyes. I guess maybe not Saquon Barkley, but here we go. We got Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Alvin Kamara comparing their 2024 numbers to their 2025 numbers. Some significant drop-offs, especially when you're talking about Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara. Lucas, this was your topic. What's catching your eye about these old boys here?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just when I look at those three in particular, the value of them as dynasty pieces is so hard to determine right now, because I feel like for Henry and Kamara especially, they're at the point in their career where, like, when are they actually going to call it? And they're, as good as they are until they're not. And it's really tough to pin down when that time exactly is. I think for Kamara, especially, like, he signed the 1-year extension last year. So this may very well be it for him. Like, the team's not great right now. It doesn't look, at least, week 5, 2025, here we are right now, like the Saints are going to take some big jump in the next year and all of a sudden be competing for the division or for more. And so I can definitely see him just kind of calling it soon here. Had his entire career as a Saint. New Orleans loved him. He was fantastic for them. One of my favorite players to watch when he was in his prime. So I just see him kind of, remaining on the teams that he's on right now. Who's really going to trade for him with what he's done so far this year and what that offense has looked like? And if you have him, you don't really want to, trade him for cheap just to call it. So that one's interesting. I think Derrick Henry then, like, what is going on with the Ravens? Week 1, Derrick Henry had a really good year, or really good week. So you're probably thinking like, oh yeah, we're back. It's the Derrick Henry I know. And then ever since then, he's just really not been startable. I mean, he's scored 9 points this week, less than that the week before. Justice Hill put up like 40, and it's just such a weird time for the Ravens where they're not even really a good football team right now from what we've seen so far. And, does he want to be on a not very good football team? So I don't know. We'll see. Again, like I think Derrick Henry probably has one more year compared to Kamara. But this could very well be it for both of them. I don't want to go out and predict it. I'm not at that point just yet, but it's not looking great if you have those guys and we're counting on them. And then Saquon, a little different, but the number drop-off is definitely there. So going from 22 to 16, like that's a touchdown less in terms of scoring per game, and that's coming in more than just touches, but the yards per game, as you can see, and yards per attempt is just crazy to see. So I think there's probably a lot of people who made some big moves for Saquon last year and right now are kind of maybe not regretting it because they were probably in their championship. But right now that Eagles offense as a whole, and especially Saquon, are just scary assets to own.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out that those Derrick Henry numbers, by the way, are heavily inflated from that one game. Like, if he didn't have that one game, like, his numbers would be significantly lower than they were in 2025. But my biggest thing was I feel like Barkley was the easiest offseason sell. I wasn't an owner of Barkley in any of my leagues, so I didn't really talk about it too much. But you talk about just, like, the general fact of running back number ones very rarely ever repeat that season in like back-to-back years. We've seen CMC multiple times following season. He's like RB15, if not less, because of injuries. And when I talked about a few times this offseason, the amount of touches that he's had and looking at his injury history and like how often those players get hurt, like 80% chance he misses multiple games. 50% chance he misses more than a quarter of the season just based off of his touches, and just asking him to recreate that success. Like, you could have shipped Barkley for a haul, for an absolute haul this offseason. Like, I feel like that was the easiest sell. So even if he is still fantasy relevant and dynasty relevant, he still was my dynasty RB4 at the time, because it's like, who else really was going to take his place? You still think you have like 3 to 4 years left of Saquon Barkley, and if he can, even right now, looking at the numbers he's putting up, it's not terrible. But like, from what he was doing last year and like the Eagles offense in general, you could have sold him for so much. Multiple picks, probably a great player involved in there as well. So yeah, I think the Derrick Henry though and Kamara surprises me a lot, because I thought Kellen Moore was going to get him going. I didn't think his drop. I think, looking at his numbers last year, they weren't great. We can get it back up there and kind of touch on it a little bit. They weren't like overly great. 18 points per game is nice. 100 yards per game is nice, but his touchdown numbers weren't really there. His yards per attempt weren't significantly high. And it's the Saints offense, but I didn't expect it to be this much of a fall off in Kellen Moore's system. But yeah, Derrick Henry, also shocking. Like, what the hell is going on there? And it bothers me the most because their success rate on first and second down runs with him is so high. So Dan Orlovsky touched on it. It was like they're like second best in the league at running the ball with Derrick Henry on first and second down, but they do it like the 30 for like on average with him, like compared to like other league, it's like the 30th team in the NFL. I'm like running with their main running back option on first and second down. It's crazy. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, picking up off the Kamara point too, it's like I feel like Kamara hasn't been that great of a player for a while now. Like, maybe I'm wrong on that, but especially as a runner, like between the tackles, like I feel like when he came in the league, there was just something special about him. Like, he wouldn't go down on first contact. He was consistently creating like big explosive plays. I still remember the 5 touchdown game against Minnesota. I mean, it felt like the guy was the best running back in the league. And I feel like probably ever since Sean Payton's left, there's just been something different about him, whether, I don't know, maybe injuries got him or something, but he hasn't been the same explosive player. I actually think a lot of his productions come via the check down, via just the target volume he's gotten over the last past few years. And so for me, I think really the difference with him this year is probably more so related to the quarterback than it is himself. Like, I think in previous years, he's at least had a Derek Carr type of quarterback where he's a veteran. He knows to get the ball in Kamara's hands like very quickly. Like I almost feel like it was a joke with Derek Carr that he was just looking to check the ball down, like snap it and then just check it down right away to Kamara. And so when you put in like not a real quarterback, but like a new young quarterback looking to establish his career, like he's actually going to look to try to play NFL football like the correct way. And I think that's what Spencer Rattler's doing. He's looking to actually go through his reads and play within the system. And that's why Kamara's maybe not getting the 10 targets he was getting with Derek Carr or with Drew Brees. So that's probably just a result of that. The Saquon Barkley thing, I mean, the game this past week was really, really weird. I mean, he got like 3 rushes in the second half. Like, I don't understand what happened, especially when the Eagles had the lead. So maybe they're trying to preserve him. Maybe they're trying to prove something with their passing offense. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but like you were saying with the injuries, like I think is very, like, I hate to like predict an injury, but I do think that it's coming for Saquon Barkley. I do think he's really similar to CMC, like you said, where it's like he's going to go like odd year or like every other year he's going to be injured. And then the next year he's going to have a monster season. So yeah, I think Saquon Barkley's one of those players where, yeah, you probably should have sold high in the offseason. Maybe we should have done a better job of calling that out. But yeah, like it's probably a little bit predictable to see the injury coming, but I don't think it's been as predictable to see the drop in just production. I think that's been in volume. That's been kind of strange.
Well, that was like, go on.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, that was kind of just like what I'm seeing. It's like, okay, they're either like, it was either they're going to preserve him and he's still going to be somewhat valuable, but his production's going to go down because they're going to try to lessen his touches and make sure that they can have him come postseason time, or he's going to get injured. That's just kind of what I was like viewing. And he's already got knee soreness. He's on the injury report, but he said he's good to go. He's going to play this Thursday. But these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. His very lack of touches in this game, this last game. What, he only had 6 carries in the second half or something like that, or maybe even
less than that. Yeah, it was like 3, 2 or 3.
Yeah. Like, and they got a game on Thursday. Like, bingo, there you go. Like, that just screams preservation to me. Like, they got a game in 4 days, and Saquon's getting limited touches in a game on Sunday. Like, I don't know. It just seemed very apparent to me that this was going to unfold for Philadelphia.
Yeah, and they did trade for Tank Bigsby earlier in the year. I know he's mostly just been a kickoff guy, but maybe that was also an indication. And as for Derrick Henry, like, I don't know. I feel like I've been wrong on Derrick Henry for a while now. Like, I felt like he wasn't a guy that was going to age like all that well, especially because he's always taken out in passing down situations. He always to me seemed like a standard league type of running back. But I mean, every year he's kind of proven me wrong. And, he's kind of notorious for being a cold weather, December, January player. So I wouldn't be as panicked with him. I think Lamar Jackson's going to come back. I think the weather's going to get colder out. And I think he's going to continue to be the Derrick Henry that we saw, previous years and even in week 1 of this year.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's get into your guys, Ryan. Ryan's always got his guys. And we're
my youngsters.
Finally talking about Bill.
Let's go.
Finally talking about Bill. Look at this against the Los Angeles Chargers. 27 fantasy points, 111 yards on 14 attempts. That's definitely wrong. That is not how many yards per attempt he had. That is supposed to be 7.9. But yeah, really good game. 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 39 yards. On top of that, Ryan, what stood out to you for JCM, Krosky Merritt, this weekend?
I mean, I would have believed you with the 13 yards per attempt. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, something great happened. And I think it's safe to say he's officially arrived. I mean, 14 for 111, like you said. I checked on this on PFF. He has the number 1 rushing grade amongst all running backs in the NFL. All 47 qualified running backs. He's averaging 6.6 yards per carry this season. He has the second most yards after contact on only like 40 attempts. So, I mean, we heard all about this guy in training camp. They finally then traded Brian Robinson. And yet, even despite that, he really wasn't getting the run to start the year. They're mostly using Austin Eckler. But then Austin Eckler pops his Achilles. And then I think we've finally seen him now like take over that backfield. They were still messing around a little bit with McNichols and Chris Rodriguez a bit. But I think this last game is like he's shown it's his backfield. And I think, honestly, if he becomes like kind of a 3-down workhorse type of running back, he's probably going to be a top 10 running back the rest of the way this season. because like of just how high powered this Washington offense is and how successful they are. I mean, if he gets the right amount of touches, I think he's going to be a very useful asset. For dynasty purposes, it might be a little bit blurrier because he was a 7th-round pick. So the draft capital is going to be a little bit concerning for some people. I assume they draft a running back next year since, Eckler's career is likely over. I mentioned they already traded Brian Robinson. But if he feasts the rest of the way this year, like I think he will, I think he'll have a firm control of the backfield going into like even next year. I checked Keep Trade Cut. He's currently RB27, which I think is way too low on him. Maybe they haven't updated it yet, but I'd have him more so in like the 15 to 20 range, probably around Cam Scatterbo. Might be a little bit bullish, but I don't think this is just some like flash in the pan 7th-round pick. I think he was a legit prospect. I remember I studied him a bit and looked to grab him as a UDFA in some rookie drafts. After some rookie drafts, he really has a well-rounded game, good athleticism. He has the vision, the balance. He actually, senior year, he ran for over 1,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. In 1 year of college. The next year, he was forced to sit out due to some eligibility issues. But then he came back in the pre-draft process. He won the Shrine Bowl MVP. He ran for 100 yards. He got on a lot of people's radars there. I mean, I think he's a legit player. Don't let the draft capital scare you. There's been a ton of late-round running backs that have been successful. Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round pick recently. Arian Foster, UDFA. Austin Eckler, UDFA. So, I mean, even if you don't believe in him in the long term, I think he's a great buy now because, like I said, Washington's a great offense. He's got the juice. And I'm looking at that next week matchup on prime time against the Chicago Bears. I mean, I think the Chicago Bears are like the worst run defense I've ever seen. So I think if you think this was his breakout, just wait until next week because I don't even know what's about to happen for his stock. So yeah, if you can still buy low on him now, do it now because next week I don't even think it's gonna be possible.
Lucas was a buyer.
I was a buyer. Yeah, got in early preseason, right around the time of the Brian Robinson trade, like right after I think, and paid a 3rd and a 4th-round pick for him, which felt like
juicy.
Yeah, felt pretty good for me at the time, but you never know. Like early on when we saw Chris Rodriguez get some of the snaps, even after Eckler went out, like I just wasn't too sure, and so I unfortunately made the mistake of benching him this week in favor of, I believe, Zach Charbonnet. So Sharp's got a tutty for me. Pollock got a tutty for me. I definitely have the rotating carousel of running backs, and if you had to pin down that solid starter. So for my team's sake, Ryan, I hope everything you just said there is right, and completely agree about the Bears game next week. We saw what that allowed Genty to do. And the Commanders are just a good team, especially with Jaden Daniels being back here. They're going to continue to be a really good rushing team. So if we continue to be a really bad rushing defense, then I'll be happy starting JCM in my lineup next week.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of hate watching them a little bit just because I hate running backs. Just to start the season, to be honest with you. And then everybody was like, Bill, it was just trending on Twitter. And I was like, fucking get so fucking real right now. But while I was hate watching Jaden Daniels yesterday, he kind of impressed me a little bit. So I'm buying the JCM stock. My thing is like, I feel like if you own his stock right now, like you're gonna be looking for way too much. Like I feel like these guys who own him are gonna be asking for way too much. Like if you were gonna buy in, it was when Lucas bought in when he's going for like a 3rd and a 4th, which at the time it was going to be a risky play because the preseason hype was there. But that was probably like the best bang for your buck you're gonna get. Because like in my head, it's like, what is best case scenario for him? Like Kyron Williams.
Yeah,
like that's probably best case scenario for him. I like Kyron Williams, but I don't know. Am I gonna take the risk on him fully becoming that? And like,
I feel like he could be like a league winner this year, though. Like if you're just looking for that buy now.
Yeah, but maybe this year, yeah. But I feel like the price is just so high on him, regardless. Like I feel like just because of the hype that's with him. Like the hype is going to be there. The price tag is going to be there. Maybe field a few offers, see what you're looking for, but I wouldn't go shipping off the draft farm for JCM for a 7th-round pick. I need a little bit more to be sold on these 7th-round running backs. I need a little bit. You said he's got the juice, but the sauce is forever. I need to see some sauce.
I feel like this was the week though to do it, even because we see what happens with primetime games. We saw what happened with Drake May. Like the whole world is talking about Drake May, and I feel like he's a ride now. So that's going to be next week, Monday Night Football against the worst run defense in football. I mean, kind of like Ashton Genty. Not saying JCM's that same level of player, but I think he's going to have a monster game, and then he's going to be like double in price. So try to get him right now.
Yeah, I could agree with you 100%, but I'm this is me personally sending out a warning to some people saying don't go shipping off the farm for him. That's my advice. Ryan sounds like he's saying the opposite.
He believes too much in Gervon Dexter and Grady Jarrett up the middle. That's what I'm hearing.
That is not true. JCM is probably going to have a very good game against the Chicago Bears. Just saying, overall, down the line, think about what you're doing here. Best case scenario in my eyes is Kyron Williams. He's got to hit that first. So don't go shipping off your farm for a guy who might be Kyron Williams. That's just my advice. Okay? Trade time. Points per game, 8.4, 211 yards so far in the season with 47 touches, only a touchdown. Average 6 yards per reception, though. Ryan, is it trade time? Antonio Gibson shredded his knee. Are you not funny?
You were celebrating that one, though, because you just hate running backs.
All of them injured, please.
I'm not rooting for, I have kind of talked about running backs and injuries a lot, like telling everybody Saquon's going to get hurt this entire offseason. But no, trade time with Antonio Gibson being down and Ramondre Stevenson's terrible fumbling issues. Are you starting to think that it's time for Travion Henderson to explode in this Patriots offense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I kind of wanted this to be my weekly, like, under the radar pick, but I don't even think you can classify it as that because Travion Henderson just gets so much buzz. I mean, I remember checking Twitter over these last few weeks. I mean, a lot of people are roasting the Patriots coaching, or they're wondering if there's stuff going on behind the scenes that's not allowing Travion Henderson to play more. But I think, in my opinion, it's just Mike Vrabel being one of those coaches who likes to redshirt rookies.
McDaniels as well.
Yeah, just kind of redshirt them and ride the vets. Yeah, right. And McDaniels was with Belichick. I mean, that was a big Belichick thing. So I think now that's like literally not possible because, like you said, Antonio Gibson tore his ACL. So, he had a pretty sizable role in this offense. So all of those touches are going to go Travion Henderson's way. And I think now that Ramondre Stevenson's lost, 3 fumbles in his last 3 games, and we know there's nothing that drives coaches crazier than fumbles. So I see Travion Henderson working his way nicely in this backfield. Stevenson will probably still get like the between the tackles work and the goal line carries, but I think that's fine. I think we all knew that Henderson was going to be the explosive pass catcher, and he was being drafted early in rookie drafts to be, that kind of guy that caught maybe 3, 4, 5 balls a game, got 10 to 15 carries, a lot of explosive plays. And I think now he's going to get that opportunity. So yeah, I think this is more of like a don't panic type of segment. We'll call it that. Hold him, buy low on him. He's got the Saints and the Titans the next 2 weeks. So I think if there's really no better time for the breakout to happen than, those 2 teams that are probably the worst 2 teams in football. So,
Lucas, what are your thoughts on Travion Henderson?
Yeah, I really like Travion Henderson. I was upset at the time when the Bears didn't get him. I think he's exactly the type of player that you want as on your fantasy team and on your dynasty team right now. And things have worked out well, but it's almost like when you're cheating and like you make it a little bit obvious that you're cheating on accident, you kind of go past like the tease and now everyone knows that you're cheating. And it's like things were going really well for Travion Henderson, but then Antonio Gibson tore his ACL, and now it's like, okay, well, everybody knows that it's probably trade time. Like, I think had Gibson stayed healthy, the transition would have still naturally happened, and Henderson would end up where he's inevitably going to be a little bit quicker now. So now everyone knows, and I don't think the price is as cheap as maybe it was these past few weeks, but still, we haven't seen the production. We haven't seen the points. Maybe it is still a good opportunity to buy in. I know I certainly sent an offer earlier today that was rejected within 10 minutes. So I would like to have a Henderson on my team for sure. And I think now it might be now or never if you're looking to buy.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on that. I will say I'm a little worried you guys probably think I'm just like a full-blown RB hater, which I truly am, kind of. I'm a little worried about his production in just New England's offense in general, and like how like I feel like it's always been McDaniel's way. Like they've never really had truly like one stick in Josh McDaniel's offense. Like even with the second-round draft capital, like it just I was so bought in on Henderson and being such a huge piece of this offense, and then like 3 weeks went by and I'm like, oh yeah, Josh McDaniels is their offensive coordinator. Duh. Like this is what's kind of going down. But I do think like his numbers are going to gradually rise. And like Lucas said, with Antonio Gibson's injury, that just sped up this process a little bit. I'm just worried about his ceiling, like what I think he is talent wise compared to like what I think his ceiling might be in New England. I feel like that might hold him back truly just like in general based on what I think his talent is. But overall, I think we're going to start to see a real rise in production from Travion Henderson. So yeah, I would say it's trade time. I would say it's trade time, but I will say this: a lot of people were giving him flack, and this was around the time where there was reports that Judkins did beat his girlfriend, so cut the reporter some slack on that. But they got a lot of flack for drafting Judkins before Henderson this last offseason, and I'm still rolling with Judkins over Henderson.
And I do want to add too, I think to your point, Will, I just looked up some of the numbers between Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, and Antonio Gibson. They've scored 115 fantasy points collectively. So even if every single one of those touches, assuming like the same production, the same points per went to Henderson, you're looking at what, 23 points per game if my math is right there. So I think that's still kind of a fair hesitation too, is like, you know, you hope that if he gets more touches, they turn into more productive touches, but it's not a very high volume, high point position for that New England Patriots offense.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think he, like when I say his numbers will gradually rise, like you see that points per game, let's say over his next like 8 games, I think we're going to be looking at like 13 points per game, like 14 points per game from him. I think you'll see a couple flashes of the 20s, of course, but I think you'll also kind of even out around like the 9 and 10s a few times as well with him. Because I mean, Drake May's moving the ball down the field through the air. He's averaging he's got one of the highest, you know, attempts and passing yards in the NFL. They're throwing the shit out of the football for sure. So, and McDaniels just loves to spread out his guys.
Yeah.
All right, we made it. 47-minute mark. Cubs baseball on the TV. Chiefs Jaguars on the TV. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another Dynasty recap. Can't wait to get into week 6. Bye weeks are starting to hit. We're going to be talking some trades here soon. Trades here soon. We're probably just a few weeks away from the trade deadline in most leagues. We'll maybe do like a couple straight episodes of trade deadlines because I know some of our leagues run later than others. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks to Lucas and Ryan. Peace.